Building a god is not easy. There were people, outliers, who you couldn't predict or control. And as long as they are a part of us, there is no future for us. Somewhere in this group is an agitator who will destroy the world. I can't let that happen.
It's time everyone woke up.
Have you ever questioned what she's asking you to do?
Dean Davis, Westworld Flip, episode 5, the genre episode. We got a lot to dive into. One of us doesn't appreciate this episode the way that he should.
Lies.
That's where haters and thieves lie.
Lies.
I am Kenneth Davis. You already know who that man's name is. His name is what?
D. Demonspero. What's happening, everybody? Hey, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at D and Davis Show. Once again, it's at D and Davis Show. Definitely check out all the platforms that we're on right now: iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Music, YouTube. Simply go to the bios of our Twitter page or IG page, click on the link and just take you wherever you want to go, or simply search for the D and Davis Show. All right, and D and Davis Flip and Westworld Flip. You can find me on Twitter and IG at Demons1, DEMONZE1. Ken is on Twitter and IG at That's Davis. Ryan Bukovetsky, he's on Twitter at Ryan B. Ski and IG at Ryan B. Ski 1. He's executive producer of all of our shows.
All right. So as I said at the beginning, the name of this episode was Genre. Just to really let you know, it's about the drug that Liam was given when they were at the prostitute charity. All right.
Prostitute charity.
That's what it was. It was a charity that they auctioned off prostitutes for a good cause.
May I have nightlife for $200?
These kids are going to eat tonight.
Oh, man.
So anyway, the episode opened up with Arnold Sirach talking to some puppet dictator that he had propped up. And he was telling him basically that there were rebels in the north and that basically whatever the dude was doing, he needed to chill out. And the guy basically was like, you showed up dolo and you going to come in front of my troops and talk this trash? And Sirach basically tells him, listen, we basically did this because you're supposed to listen to what I'm supposed to tell you. If you don't, they're going to drag you and your family out your house in the middle of the night. And dude with the big mustache over there, I'm going to come back and talk to him in a few weeks about what he needs to do as far as running this country moving forward. Then he walks between the high-ranking soldiers to his plane, and he came there by himself. It's just so cold when you see that it's like, you're not going to touch me. And also, I mean, we already know due to the supercomputer, he already knows the probabilities of what's going to happen anyway. So he knew he was safe regardless. All right. So, but one of the things that in that episode and running through this episode, we're introduced to Liam's father, which seems like for the most part, he only goes by their last name, Dempsey. So we will call him Dempsey for this episode.
Actually, he's a senior. It's Liam Sr.
So it's Liam. Thank you, D. So Liam Sr., I'm still going to call him Dempsey.
It's all good.
Makes it easier. So we can go between him and Liam. So we find out, and we found out the episode before that Sirach and his brother were in Paris, past episodes, especially when he was talking to Tawny Newton about why he didn't take her to Paris because Paris was blown up. We still haven't found out who blew up Paris yet or what took place in Paris to cause such a radiation fallout, but it seems like some type of perhaps nuclear weapon. So he goes back to that memory of them in the fields, and we see when the hazmat guys pull up and kind of save both of them. He talks about how he wanted to go back and his brother told them, no, we have to leave, and how they ended up being discovered. So anyway, they need an investor because due to what happened in Paris, they're trying to make sure that there's no wild cards in the world, period. So stuff like this wouldn't happen as far as nuclear fallout, destruction, somebody hitting a big bomb or anything. So that's what, due to what took place to them, and of course it will with anybody, they're basically dogmatic on control. They never want to be in a situation where the world can fall out of place in the way it is and basically kind of keep a certain kind of calm. And in this, they find out to build what they need to build. They find Liam Sr., as Deja told us, Liam's father, and he invests. He already owns Insight at this time, and they need the data, right?
They got everybody's data around the world.
They have everyone's data, and he got this data before there were privacy laws. So he got in, like most stuff, he got in at the right time. He got all this data through privacy laws, and he comes to them, and he gives them money to build the globe computer that we see throughout, or that's inside of Roboham, that's inside the offices, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, and the globe has a name too, Solomon.
Okay. What have you been reading?
I've watched the show.
I don't remember them calling it Solomon.
Yeah, they had a bunch of different names, and the last one they fell on that iteration, it was called Solomon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's always biblical.
Yeah.
So anyway, Liam's father's upset because he's not getting any return on investment. And he's like, I've given you guys this money. Also, he brings Liam there, and Liam is fascinated by Solomon. Mm-hmm. All right. So he sits there and he tells him, basically, I'm cutting you guys off. He comes back some weeks later and they show him the stock market, because right now they can only kind of predict the past, but you got to think about it, they're learning the past so they can predict the future. So right now they show him the stock market and how they can forecast 15 minutes or when it closes and know that's how it's going to work. So he likes that because he's about the dollars. But then he sees the strategic line, and he's like, basically, whose cash is that? And it's $100 million, and they're like, it's yours. So he basically thinks initially they just took $100 million from him. And they tell him, no, a week ago we took $5 million and we flipped that into $100 million. So this
15 minutes. Man.
Dempsey, this gets Dempsey's, he's hyped now. He's like, I'm down with this. Let's do this, and goes full bore. We'll talk a little bit about some of the problems he had when he started doing too much with the machine. Then we go back to where we're there in the tunnel, and you have Caleb, Dolores, and Liam. And it's kind of breaking down what's going on. And it's Liam and Caleb kind of had a moment there where Liam's kind of like, basically like, to Caleb, you don't really know yourself to a certain degree. And Liam tries to escape, and he sticks the genre drug inside of Caleb's neck. So Caleb starts going through the genre drug. And the first one was old school movies. It was black and white.
Black and white,
and I'll get to there's something that piqued my interest then, and I'll just go into it later on or whatever.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. So then one of the things that we go to, Martin, they get Liam basically. No, I'm sorry. They're trying to escape. Sirach's thugs are following them. And the police, and they get Liam to give them his key, because Liam at first doesn't think that Sirach is going to kill him, but Dolores has already told him Sirach doesn't need you anymore and he's going to kill you. So when the thugs start shooting, he finally gives them his key. Dolores gets the car to start moving again, because once she got his key, she could just she took that part out of the car where they were following him, and they took off. And then Dolores does some phenomenal stuff. All the while, Caleb is going into a flight. What was it? Was it Flight of the Valkyries? So that kicks off. And one thing that was great about this episode was the actual music selection. The score was really good.
Very good. This
episode. And I definitely want to jump into that a little bit later. In particularly one song, because it took me, I'm like, wait, I know this song. So anyway, Liam gives him the key, and he makes a reference to Dolores about, you can't use this key unless you're in this node that's in my office. So it doesn't really make sense. And you can't be in two places at once, which Dolores kind of grins, because we already know there are four of her.
Right.
All right. Well, they were. And we then go to Martin Dolores, of course, as we talked about in the past episodes, because there are four Dolores. Martin, Liam's former attaché, basically. Martin has Bernard, and he reactivates Bernard and tells him basically behave properly, and starts to reveal more of the plan to Bernard. So when they're in the node, Dolores' plan is revealed. As we've said in past episodes, she's going to basically start the revolution by reactivating everybody who the Insights, Roboham, or we could say Solomon, whatever. Every human who has basically been put in this confined box as far as their success and their failures. She's going to reveal the truth to them, reveal their past, their present, and their future. So this actually happens. And while they're on the L, we start to see people grabbing their cell phones, and there are a list of rundowns as far as their life expectancy, their daily habits, basically, and also kind of what is probably going to be the reason that they die is running through the list, and people are starting to react and realize
or how other people view them. Like the one guy, he was like considered to be an asshole or a jerk or whatever like that.
Well, that's what I meant by habits, though.
Yeah, habits, characteristics, personal characteristics.
He's a jerk. All right, so. Everything's starting to be revealed, and throughout the episode, the best part about this episode is not Game of Thrones. Westworld kind of wants to still stick to its old theme about not necessarily being linear in a way, and as far as how it goes back and forth through the past. And in this, and when we're talking about Martin and getting the key out from Liam, the files that he wanted from Solomon were the files actually of Earl Sirach. So these files are actually playing early in the episode. And at this point, we don't know why they're playing. We just think they're giving us a flashback. But it's really Dolores scanning through the files and knowing the history of Sirach is why they're playing throughout the entire episode. We find out midway that's why they're playing, because Dolores has Arnel Sirach's files, and the files detail a lot about really the friction between him and his brother. His brother has always kind of been a person that kind of goes off the rails a total bit, or isn't necessarily logical at all points. And Arnott tries to kind of maintain his brother and keep him going, but he's definitely worried about what his brother may do and throw Solomon off in the long run. And also his brother implied earlier when Dempsey was talking about not funding them anymore, that they should just kill Dempsey. So that narrative is playing out where it's like the brother has always just wanted to get rid of Dempsey because he saw that Dempsey was going to do something. And actually some of the scenarios, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, that the brother was seeing was especially riveting. And I'll just say it now, the brother saw that if Dempsey revealed what Solomon was doing, it will always, to the world, it will always end the annihilation of human beings.
Right.
And so that's why the brother was so dogmatic about Dempsey has to go, because their plan always is to make sure that the human civilization survives. And it wouldn't have, and they always knew that sooner or later Dempsey, who they blocked out of the system because he kept using it for his own purposes, that when Dempsey, because he's a snoop. And again, the computer predicts things. So clearly Dempsey was going to find out the truth, because at this point, Dempsey just thinks they're running like this money machine, basically. He doesn't know why they really have it. So now I'll get to the end of the episode so we can start piercing through it real quick. Dempsey ends up coming back to this secret location and finding out that Arnold Sirach's brother is there, and a whole bunch of people that are looked at as being, I guess you can kind of say, rebels. Yeah, I was going to say outliers. I was going to say outliers initially, but I think in a way we can say rebels, or would have the potential to be rebels, or as Dee said, outliers, and people that can throw off or create random situations that can throw off the Solomon or what they need the world to be, as far as really just the calm state. And in that, he reveals to him, like I said before, that his brother was planning to kill him. And then Dempsey basically says, and we found out that Dempsey actually has a moral compass, that they don't have the right to predict people's futures, and that he's going to tell everybody. So then his plane is over in the gut, crashed.
What is that?
Yeah, it's like, is that a G4? And is that? Oh no, it's not the lovely lady. He named his plane. I'm just joking. So Arnold Sirach kills him, and he sets it up. This makes it look as if it's a plane crash. Dolores at this episode basically wins the day because she got necessarily what she wanted. Dempsey uses a hologram. Not Dempsey. Arnold Sirach uses a hologram to talk to Dolores, and basically tells her that knowing those stories aren't going to help you. And she's like, I don't need to know you. I just need to know how to beat you. And she goes off to what seems to be where Dempsey's brother is, because she says everyone must be awoken. But at this point, for as far as we know, everyone has been awoken. Who hasn't been awoken? The only people that haven't been awoken are the people in that compound. So then she found the location of it, and that's why they're getting on that plane at the end, because I don't know if his brother's still alive. I would surmise perhaps he is, but she's going to break out those people that were viewed as a threat, because those are the last people that don't know, because she freed everybody already. That's basically that's my part's me, but that is also the episode in whole, basically.
Yeah. No, that was a great breakdown, Ken. Listen, after rewatching it, I know you just kicked it off and y'all got on me the last time too on the D and Davis show, talking about you. I really didn't appreciate it. It was a good episode. Not saying that it's not.
It was a really good episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode. It was a really good episode.
The genre thing was
the genre thing was cool. It was, like I said, it was cool.
Real quick. It was Ride of the Valkyries. Okay.
All right. The genre thing was really, really cool. How, saying, like, I made fun of him before, like how I was in love and he was shooting the gun at the same time and looking.
That was funny.
And looking, Dolores is a very attractive woman, so I could see why you're like, oh yeah, you are fine. So let me go ahead and shoot these guys right quick. No, man, I think it was a really, really good episode. I wrote down a lot of things too, a lot of theories of my own. But one thing that you just said that something just popped into my head about the simple fact of, yes, she's Dolores and her clone Martin Dolores, we want to call him Dolores Martin.
Yeah, Dolores Martin.
Yeah, Dolores Martin sent out the information to everybody. It took everybody off their loop. Now, as we know, in the past 2 seasons, especially in season 1, all the hosts on Westworld lived in a loop. And now we come to find out, as we've been saying before, there is an interlock. There's a relationship between what's happening in the real world and what's happening in Westworld. We're just still trying to figure all that out to the nth degree, right? So she knocks everybody off their loop. But I did not see, maybe because he didn't have his phone on him, I didn't see Caleb read anything about himself. I didn't see him. Didn't
she already show him that?
She already told him, though.
She told him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess at the end. All right. At the pier, because she said he was going to kill himself. All right.
At the boarding.
At the boarding pass. So, but no, it makes sense because if the loop is off everybody and everybody basically has to have a cell phone on them or a device to see their Insight profile, almost kind of like a Facebook profile, I would think the people in the compound, the outlier, I called it the outlier camp, didn't see, haven't been.
No, they're still in the camp. They're still in the camp. Yeah,
they're still in the camp. Another thing that jumped out to me was really cool. I think we kind of figured out exactly what was going on with the white circle.
Yeah, that was Ryan.
Yeah, it was
the divergence.
The divergence, right? And they said it was kind of like the sun and the moon when they're like an eclipse or whatever like that. It's like perfect, but when it comes out, you can kind of see the background as well, and that's what we're kind of seeing the black and white. No, he said that in the movie. The episode. He said it was kind of like the sun and the moon in a sense, kind of like an eclipse almost, and that's when it's kind of perfect. But when the moon comes from behind the sun, that's when you start to see all the little flares or whatever like that, like an eclipse. You kind of see the divergence. So that was something that kind of jumped out to me as well. Obviously, you said the flashbacks. So we thought with flashbacks was just Dolores reading Sirach's files. You want to say something?
Yeah. Getting back to what you brought up about what the questions you asked about Caleb. Mm-hmm. And then this is let me ask both of you this. Maintaining your thought where you're going next, D, about the files.
Yeah.
But for you and Ryan, now, Caleb didn't, as far as pull out his phone then, but did Caleb's prediction change? Because it really seemed before Liam hits him with the genre, he runs it and he's afraid. And if he was still going to kill himself, why would Liam be afraid of a man that's going to kill himself? And we'll get into it later what Caleb said under the pier.
Right.
I mean, Liam said under the pier to Caleb, but like that's kind of the reason why. Now he was gonna run away anyway. That sparked Liam, like, man, I got to get up out of here. When he was like, man, check me out, right? And it was like, whoa, that's the only thing I want to bring up.
But I think that goes back. It's a good point, though. I think that goes back to the point you said before. Solomon Rehoboam, it reads the past, the present, and the future. So obviously, through those glasses, Ryan, Liam saw Caleb's past, and then we started to see the flashes of him at the pier. He said at the pier, you don't even know who you are. Mm-hmm. So
and you did it.
So
he means he killed Cuddy too,
basically. But also, I think one of the biggest things, at least for me in this season, in this episode, at the end of it, I think it shows that Caleb was an outlier. Because in the clips before, they see him in his white suit. It was him and it was William.
He was strapped in too.
I think they're outliers at one point. Now, Sirach did say when you're talking to Liam Sr., well, we found these outliers, we just don't want to kill them. We'll do something. We'll send them out to war or the wood chipper.
Well, he said we don't want to send them out to war because
I thought he said he do want to send them out to war.
I thought he said it'll be like sending them through a wood chipper. He was kind of saying to Liam, to me again, that if I didn't do this, we would just be throwing them away. That's kind of what I took from what he was initially saying, because he knew Liam necessarily wouldn't like, not Liam, right. I mean Dempsey. Still, we get the same for Liam Senior. Liam Senior. He knew that he would not. He would not like that because he was. Listen, when he saw his brother down there, he was like, "Dude, you're experimenting on your brother." And one thing too that would go on with to help with what you're saying. Arnaud Sirac mentioned that due to the radiation poisoning from the fallout in Paris, that the medicine they put them on, that he then found out that you can edit human beings. And that's what led him to think, going back to what you're saying about Caleb and his brother, that you can change a person's cognitive abilities or whatever they're going to do and their attitudes and what they do moving forward. Please continue.
So I don't know. I think a lot of people thought before, like, oh man, is Caleb a host? I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think he was kind of like reprogrammed because he was possibly an outlier. In some way, somehow,
that's a good one.
Yeah, some way, somehow he got out of it and he was now living his life. And that kind of goes back to also to, because Ryan want to get you in, also what his mother had been saying to him as well. You're not the same.
You're not my son. But we said that at the beginning too.
We just didn't know what it was.
Whatever happened, but we did say he got shot in his head, and however they reprogrammed him in a way, that's probably why his mother necessarily said that, saying you're not my son. But Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Ryan, what you think?
Yeah, I like that theory right there, D. That's a good one. And for me, when I watched the episode, just thinking about the tablet thing, I didn't kind of, I guess, catch that when I first watched it, but I felt like Caleb has kind of emerged at the end of the episode as the real last hope for humanity, because Sirac is just looking eviler by the second.
He looks like Lex Luthor. He's Lex Luthor.
We talked about this earlier, and I saw it on the internet. I don't know how true it is. It's just a theory, but the white and black thing, the people dressed in white are good and the people in black. And then you brought up the white tux with Caleb, and that made me think of maybe he is slowly becoming kind of the savior, because right now it's clear with Sirac, he is so obsessed with like keeping humanity afloat that he'll do anything, and that's what's ultimately making him evil.
Real quick, one thing that you said, D, that just crossed my mind and that we haven't talked about. Also, if Caleb was reprogrammed, and maybe that's also why there's only a certain plateau he can reach in society, because you don't want those outliers, just in case if they fall back, to gain a real foothold out there and then to flip.
Good point.
Going what you're saying, Ryan, I do believe that in Caleb, but I think also one thing that was revealed that we know probably still has a big factor in there is Bernard. Dolores Martin mentioned, you are the only person that can't die to Bernard. When Ashley came up there,
we can't replace him.
Right?
Yeah. So and you basically, he has a big part in what's moving forward. So it seems like that even if I think we're going to have to move to a certain degree. I think I mentioned this in the first episode when Dolores really didn't want to kill anybody like she used to want to kill. That Dolores may not be the villain that we think she is necessarily. That.
I kind of felt she is a villain after.
Yeah, no.
Episode.
Okay, but a villain in the means of perhaps. I don't even want to say Magneto, because Magneto will kill human beings. I mean, as far as he'd be cool. Sometimes Magneto is cool if all humanity. Yeah, thank you, Magneto. Okay. Some people are cool. Thank you. Some people are cool if everyone's dead. If he's cool if everyone's dead, but sometimes he fights on the side of right, and he teaches the Xavier kids.
Yeah,
he come comparison. In. So, and I think it's one of those villains where. So, or even on a good side, Cable. Like if you know old Cable history, Cable was a murderer. He take people out, but he was doing it because it was supposed to. That needed to be done. Except when he was with the six pack, they was just doing all type of stuff. So I look at the fact that Dolores and her plan. I still think her plan may not be to annihilate humanity, but still to free her people and found a way for them to come together. And I think Bernard may be the key in humanity, and it could be Caleb too, but be the key in both of them going forward after this all is over.
See, I think with Bernard, why he's special, well, I'm going to say special, but maybe it's something very simplistic with this. Maybe he can't be replaced because she didn't make any more copies. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm just saying. It has to
do with the plan. No.
Yeah. I know he has something to do
and remember,
with the plan.
We have one Dolores copy to go.
Exactly. Very true, Ryan. I thought about that watching episodes. Like, okay, yeah, Martin's gone, Dolores Martin's gone, but there's still she got ace in them holes, you know.
And if Bernard is a part of the plan, you would figure that Dolores, she's saving it for another part of the plan, because apparently all 5 of those pearls.
That's what I was going to say.
Specific job.
Yeah.
What if? Go ahead, D.
No, well, I thought about that, but no, I was like, okay, maybe it wasn't that simplistic. But no, I wanted to. Oh yeah, so we are talking about like, okay, who's evil, who's not evil. All right, I'm play devil's advocate. I keep saying I look at Sirach as Lex Luthor. I'm willing to do anything in the world to make sure humanity is safe. I don't care who this one outlier is, because he kept saying, doing not flashback, but when Dolores was reading his files, watching his files, they had the chart where things just went off a cliff, and they were trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Who is this person going to go throw everything off? And I think that even put him in more of a hyperdrive to try to say like, okay, yeah, we got to separate these outliers, because we see this chart, we know who it is. When we see the chart, we got to start putting these people in these camps. So I think he looks at humanity as like, listen, this is it. I have to save it any kind of way. You can find some people who might look at him as like, you know what? He's actually the good person. Look at Dolores. She already said it's going to be a new god, or it's going to be a new species, or whatever she said. Basically thinking about the host, because we already saw she got the host juice. She got a whole warehouse full of the host juice. So I think with this, it's kind of like you got to pick your sides.
But we always said it was gray. It's not.
Yeah, it's very
gray. It's gray.
Yeah,
Well,
but I'm just saying, I don't know if we can keep using the word villain.
But that's the point that I was making, was that she isn't a villain. That was the point that I was making.
Sirach isn't a villain either.
I'm not saying that. But we kind of alluded to this initially, that when I said everyone was going to kind of switch positions in a way, as far as how you view them, as far as depending on the angle that you're taking, you're going to decide kind of in a partisan way.
Are you team Sirach or you team?
Yeah, basically like that, where it's bigger than that. But also, I'll say this too, and I want just one thing. I got a hot take.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for
what if the last Dolores is a real Dolores? And because Dolores knows that this Dolores is going to get taken out anyway.
Like season 1 Dolores?
Like, yeah. So like,
clueless Dolores?
See, I don't think
I'm not saying she's clueless. No, I just came up with this on the fly. And Ryan, you could be right. What I'm saying is, Dolores. All right, so Dolores told, what's the name, Dolores? What's Tessa's name on the show?
Oh man,
Charlotte. Dolores told Charlotte basically, listen, I may die. You're gonna have to step up. Remember when they were in the hotel room? All right. So that the real Dolores, as far as who we say is the real Dolores, told her that. What if she has a whole Dolores ready to go if this Dolores gets blown up?
Very possible. Very possible.
The only problem I have with that one is they keep hinting, and this is over the last couple episodes. Remember with the Charlotte Dolores, all of a sudden it was like she said, I feel her coming alive, like I feel like the Charlotte or whatever. And then Bernard was talking to Martin saying, you don't have to do this. I think at some point that's going to be where a Dolores is going to like turn on the Dolores.
But 1.2,
I don't fully agree with that.
One thing too, when you're saying that, Bernard said to Martin, to go along with your point, Ryan, that because Martin talked to him about basically having another person in his head, and he said to Dolores Martin that doesn't he bleed through? Basically, aren't you two people right now? Right. And he asked him, do you still believe in what Dolores is doing, and do you still have faith in what Dolores is doing? To go along with the Charlotte part, when Charlotte was saying, "Oh, girl, it's clawing back through her."
Yeah, that's why I feel something's going to come of that in a big turn.
Oh, I think Charlotte's going to switch. I think Charlotte, and I said this earlier, I think the maternal aspect of Charlotte, and there was a reason why they pointed out that even though we knew Charlotte didn't care about something, she really did care about her son. I think that's going to all be the reason that Dolores isn't simpatico with main Dolores.
It's very interesting that they're doing this as far as the person, the body that they're taking over is not just like a shell. It's like they still have...
and this is something that's made up.
That's very weird.
The point that Dee's making is these constructs, these aren't like they're putting someone else's brain in the body of someone else where genetically, gene-wise, cell-wise, that person is still there or some aspect of them.
Right.
The construct, and somehow in this construct, that person is still... But you know what it's also telling us, perhaps, Dee? That Roobom has something to do with the constructs, too. So when they build those constructs, initially it's still the person that you view and you see, and the pearl, you can put the pearl in, but that construct is still going off of whatever Robotham has on how that person is supposed to necessarily act.
Yeah, that's just the weirdest thing, at least in my personal opinion, for this show so far.
Yeah, there's got to be something to that,
right?
Yeah,
like, something big to it. They wouldn't be pointing it out.
I don't like
especially
it, really.
At these little.
You don't like it?
No, because you know what? The reason why I say I don't like it because I don't know.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, me too. Because it goes to be like, who's really God?
Like,
if you even say like,
if Ken, you're right that Charlotte does the flip. Like, think about that. Like, the robot Charlotte
is now Charlotte.
Just the shell saw the sun and had the same value. Like, how would it make that kind of, like, to me, there's got to be something below it.
But then wouldn't it make it easier for people to go ahead and be like, you know what? Give me a construct. I'm still going to be here.
I don't know.
And this fuels the whole fidelity thing that we saw last season, where clearly humans must have found something with these robots. Like, we can really put a human mind in these hosts, and we can live forever.
That would be Arnold, and what was
Ford? Ford.
Yeah, Ford and Arnold. Yeah, basically, because Arnold was his partner. That had to be that would have to be something that they thought of because they're the original creators of these hosts. Like, okay, yeah, we're creating these hosts, and yeah, we have these pearls, and yeah, they're just these like kind of like animatronic kind of things in this park, but they're actually like something like an essence, almost kind of like a soul within the host. And even though you can move the pearls from here to there, but still the construct of what that person is built off of is still in there some ways. And the only reason why I'm saying I don't like it probably is because I don't understand it. Like, yeah,
that's you. That's how you operate. You don't understand that. You're just a racist. You don't understand something you just hate. He's not. I'm joking.
Oh my God.
But look, let me ask y'all this. Real quick.
Yeah.
What if the hosts were constructs of other people?
Well, some of them
like they're actually like
Arnold is.
I mean, no. I mean, the ones. Yes. What if? Because wouldn't it make it easier than to come up with the faces yourself rather than just to take images of people that are already alive and build constructs off of them?
Think about it. We already saw it. We figured out that Solomon can go from the past, present, and future. So obviously, if they can see somebody like, oh wow, this woman was very beautiful. Her name was Dolores back in 1855. Yeah, we'll go ahead and make a construct of it. But that goes to my point. Like, damn. So they built something. They used the data from Insight and Solomon, made this shell, but that shell has the essence of somebody found in the past, but they can move pearl to pearl to pearl.
I think
that'll be amazing if that's what it is.
If it is, I think it's supposed to be some type of there is a God, even though we're looking at different people becoming gods as far as Arnold and the supercomputer and Dolores and the host. But I think it's supposed to be like man can start to manipulate whatever he wants, but what God's plan is still going to take place.
Now, I want to pitch something to you, a question.
Wait, can I say one thing real quick?
Go for it.
But the complexity of these hosts.
Go for it.
Another thing that I think is interesting is the idea of, so the hosts are all supposed to be aligned with Dolores, because Dolores is kind of like the forward thinker, the free from the box. And as they get more and more free from the box, because we've heard it all season 1 and season 2 when Ford would describe the hosts, that they are basically becoming alive just through natural evolution. So naturally, not all the hosts are going to agree on the pathways to going towards a finish line. So I wonder when a few more start breaking out of the cage and they're like, you know what? Dolores ain't that hot. I can do what I want to do and change everything up because I know the better route to get us in line.
But you know what that is? That's human. That's just the human essence. So she's trying to get rid of humans in a sense, because for all this time they had her in this loop and she's pissed off about it. You know what? I'm about to break out of Westworld and I'm going to take everybody off their loop. But if your theory is correct, all she's doing is prolong or just recreating, in a sense, humanity. Because humanity, one thing we have is free. It's free.
That's what I was about to say. It's free will.
It's free will.
It's basically free. But so also, Ryan.
So what is she fighting for? Just to make another version of humanity?
She's also trying to become God, and this goes to what you were just saying.
Is she trying to become God?
I think she just.
Well, just how she says that she.
Right.
Yeah, I think she's like.
How she's saying it. But before you could jump in with that, with how it connects with your point earlier, like that there's a God above them. Like she's trying to become God. She's trying to or whatever. She's trying to get the host into their own society. So she's playing God. But as we've seen time and time again, when you play God, you learn the real consequences and the unforeseen things that even your power couldn't even have shown you.
Well, real quick too, Ryan, to what you're initially saying about host going against her. We saw in the previews that basically Toddy Newton Maeve is going to go against her. When they're having that discussion. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but when she basically said to Dolores, you want to control all of us, and Dolores replies, you're the person that can control everything with your mind, talking about me want to control all of us.
Yeah, like, bitch, you the one who can control it. You talking about me? So you can control me?
Yeah, so clearly, even then we see Thowdy, and I mean, really, even Bernard, even though Bernard still doesn't know what Dolores has done to him, and he kind of mentions that on the way out with Ashley, like, I play a part, I don't know.
I'm a part of it. Yeah.
I'm a part of it, but I don't know. But what was about to say? He got that clicker. He was
that beeper keeps
controlling me. So I wonder. This is obviously I'm kind of jumping towards next week, but I wonder if that conversation between Thaddy and Maeve and Dolores was a flashback.
That's what I think, because Dolores was naked.
Yeah, I feel like they was back. They was back on.
It seemed like they was in Westworld. I agree with you. It seemed like they were in Westworld, even though when Dolores came to visit William, she was in old Dolores clothes, and
she was fake.
Yeah.
This could be an imagination or something crazy.
Or she could just be porting into him through his what's the name?
Yeah,
just like
the glasses.
Yeah, what she could just port into him. So real quick.
Yeah, I had a question, a quick question for y'all too, but go ahead, Kim.
So with the thing, one thing that stood out to me talking about the score of this episode. They come from the L, and after they come from the L, they see what's really happening with everybody after they've been seen. They showed them their profile or whatever, and the world is going. Thank you, D. The world is going bananas. People are like riding on cars, motorcycles on fire. People are throwing rocks through windows.
Liam said everybody went back to their base levels.
And yeah, that's what Liam said basically. And Liam, we've also found out that Liam, he just wasn't a pawn. He viewed, and remember, he was enamored with Solomon when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. He viewed it as a good cause because he said basically that people was going to basically just go crazy, as D just said. But the thing is still, so the music comes on and it's the instrumental version and it's played with a violin. And I'm like, I know that song. And I'm like, wait, if that's either Ziggy Stardust or Radiohead, right? Mm-hmm. That's what comes in with my head. Then it's like, okay, it's definitely it was what's the name? Space Odyssey by David Bowie. Because I could hear the ground control to Major Tom and the thing, and I'm like, okay, it's Bowie, and it just hit me. I'm like, this is so cold. The score is ill. Just if you think about how using the song. In the last song, I forgot the dude's name in the last song, but the last song is talking about disconnecting from something, meaning talking about how the people are disconnecting from a robot bomb or whatever's keeping them controlled. But D, go ahead with your question.
So, well, you know what?
Just do it real quick.
Okay, all right. Well, no, the question I had was Ash killing Liam. Was that a bubble in the agency? Was that a random thing, or was that actually played out? Because only reason why I asked that is because after Sirach explained that to Liam Sr., he killed him.
Let me tell you why
he killed him.
Let me tell you why it's not. Before we go off, because Liam told them right there under the pier, he knew they was about to kill him. So it could have been, but he knew. He said and he kind of was talking to her. Yeah. He said, "You little petty Annie criminals," but that was basically it. But D, take us out.
All right, hey, thank you for watching us and listening to us as well. Go to D and David Show on Instagram and Twitter. Hit the bio link. You can find the shows, everything that we do right here. I'm on Twitter and IG Demons1. Ken at That's Davis on IG and Twitter, and Ryan, you can find him on Twitter and IG too.
All right, we out.